Hello, and welcome to the second installment of the Remembrall Readathon series. Now, before we dive in, I must, in the words of Albus Dumbledore, trouble you with an old man's wheezing waffle. I've had a few people asking what the book breakdown and video upload schedule is going to be. These videos will roughly be following the calendar that you can find at thehpalliance.org/remembrall. However, I have kept it purposefully vague because it's a pretty intense schedule, and I know that I won't quite keep to it if I make it absolutely strict. Essentially, the first 3 books will have 2 videos each, focusing roughly on half of the book for each video, although again, vague. The later books will have 3 or 4 videos each because they are long. For those of you who haven't worked it out yet, the calendar sets you at a pace of 59 pages a day. Got it? Okay. On with the video. There is a lot to cover this time, so I'm going to skip right into the Room of Ruminations. Is platform 9 3/4 used for any other wizard trains? Like, are there wizard commuters? Or do they just all use, like, the plumbing and fireplaces? So we know that Ron uses Charlie's old wand, but why does Charlie not have his wand anymore? The very first adjective that we get of Hermione is bossy. I don't like that. Makes me sad. Spoiler alert! Spoiler in the dungeons! What do you think Peter Pettigrew must have been thinking when Ron sat in the same compartment as Harry Potter? I would just love to kind of read that first meeting from Peter Pettigrew's perspective. Dumbledore's silver hair was the only thing in the whole hall that shone as brightly as the ghosts. I bet he conditions. I am having a heck of a time not reading these books with Jim Dale's voice going through my head. I also keep remembering the things that my mom and I had trouble with when we first read the books together at bedtime. We called Hermione Hermione, prefix were perfix, and Hagrid's voice was often indecipherable. Not to mention how many words we had to look up together in the dictionary. Something I definitely wouldn't have picked up on my first reading was that Madame Hooch's name is Hooch, as in moonshine. I wonder what that's supposed to say about her. At the beginning of chapter 9, our namesake appears! It's the Remembrall! Also, the Remembrall was kinda the first snitch that Harry ever caught, and it was Gryffindor colored. How come none of us ever mentioned this? Maybe we don't remember? But from that moment on, Hermione Granger became their friend. There are some things you can't share without ending up liking each other, and knocking out a 12-foot mountain troll is one of them. Still, one of my top favorite lines in the whole series. They have that whole months-long agonizing search for Nicholas Flamel, and all I could think the whole time was, boy, it would have been nice if they had Google, huh? Can we talk for a second about how normalized the whole thing about, like, broomsticks being cool is? Even Harry, who knew nothing about the different brooms, thought it looked wonderful. Sleek and shiny, with a mahogany handle. It had a long tail of neat, straight twigs, and Nimbus 2000 written in gold near the top. Like, what is with these glamour shots? Does no one else find this weird? They're broomsticks. Harry's only known they're a thing that you can fly on for a sport for, like, 2 months. Chapter 11, Harry plays in his first Quidditch match and catches the golden snitch. The birth of snitch witches. And then during the Quidditch match, when Harry's broom goes haywire, Hermione scoops the flames that she had set on Snape back into a jar that she had in her pocket. Why does Hermione just casually carry jars in her pocket? Who does she think she is, Maureen Johnson? In retrospect, it is so cringeworthy at the beginning of chapter 14 when Harry and Ron make a point of going out of their way to be nice to Quirrell. They're being nice to Voldemort! Ah! It's so weird to me that Hagrid was the one running detention that they got because they were helping him. Also, Harry, you should have just told McGonagall what was up when she caught you. She probably wouldn't have turned Hagrid in, but she sure as heck would have been less mad at you because she would have known that you were just doing Hagrid's dirty work. Oh my gosh, I'm a grown-up now. Just as a kid, you never think that adults could solve your problems, you know? But, like, we can help sometimes. You know what, actually, I went on and on about how much I love Hagrid and how he reminds me of this old professor of mine in the last video, which I still think, but now I'm remembering some of these bad decisions he's made, and, you know, his drinking wasn't really memorable to me as a child, but now as an adult, it's a little concerning. But then again, what do you expect from someone with a rough upbringing who was framed by Voldemort, and no one ever acknowledged that except for Dumbledore? And he never gets any sort of formal apology or anything from the school board. He never gets to go back and finish his education, even when they realize he has a clean slate and he was innocent the whole time. Ugh! Dude's actually doing amazing considering all of that. Oh shoot, that was totally kind of a spoiler. Ignore that if you're reading it for the first time. And then, as Filch was depositing Harry, Hermione, Draco, and Neville off at Hagrid's for detention, I started thinking about whether their parents had all signed release forms to be out there with Filch and Hagrid who weren't normal teachers, and whether Filch and Hagrid had gone through training to be allowed to supervise minors. And that was it. That was the moment that I realized I'm an adult. In years to come, Harry would never quite remember how he managed to get through his exams when he half expected Voldemort to come bursting through the door at any moment. You'll get used to it, kid. On page 263, we get the first appearance of the giant squid, who is basking in the warm shallows of the Great Lake.
Yep, and that's the way it should be.
But now, on to the sass count. Having completed Sorcerer's Stone, I think our sass count is up to 8. Yes, it's still a little modest. Harry has a little bit of learning to do from Fred and George and Ron's sassiness. Just wait, because when we get to Order of the Phoenix, this counter might break. And now let's head on over to the Owlery. We got a couple of messages I want to talk about this week. First, from Mary. She wonders if part of a spell working is pronouncing the words perfectly, then what does that mean for people with speech impediments? Fantastic point. I am always curious to know more about witches and wizards and non-binary magical folk who have various disabilities and how that's handled in the magical world. There was actually a response from Tren, and it looks like they have been writing a next-gen fanfic that actually kind of talks about a little bit of this, so if you're interested in that, you can go to bit.ly/Scorpius. I haven't read it all yet, but it sounds super awesome. And then Carolyn wonders, how did the Dursleys even get off that island? Like, Hagrid and Harry took the only boat. Oh my gosh, really good question. Does anyone know the answer to this or have a theory? Because, like, wow, yeah, did they swim? Was there a working telephone so they could call the person they rented the boat from? I mean, it was the 90s, so, like, what phone number did they have? Did they have to call 911? Also, does anyone else ever wonder, like, how they explained Dudley's tail at the hospital when they had to get that removed? Because they went to a proper hospital. What, did they say he was born with it? That is it for this week. I hope you have all enjoyed Sorcerer's Stone. In the next video, we will be diving into the Chamber of Secrets. Although not literally, that would be scary and slimy. In the comments, I would just love to hear all of your, like, cool theories with all the different symbolism and foreshadowing that you picked up on in Sorcerer's Stone, especially if there's anything else new that you saw. Oh, and one last thing, if you want to get this t-shirt in a t-shirt or a tank top or a hoodie, you can go to dftba.com/HPA. We've got all kinds of awesome wizard gear, including the exclusive merchandise of the Granger Lovegood 2016 campaign. Thank you all for watching, and happy reading.
This book is so awesome. I can do anything. This book is so awesome. I am the potion